Right, let's go to Mr. Corne Mulder. Thank you very much for holding on. There's been, of course, the Freedom Front Plus is voting on this as a measure to also test the party's perspectives on this. And in Parliament, of course, not voted in a way to, of course, sever ties with Israel. So that, I think, gives us some sort of an indication on where the party, deals and feels on the question that I've asked to all candidates, and that is whether South Africa should have, political representation here of Israel here in South Africa. And I'm quite curious to know why the Freedom Front Plus, Mr. Mulder, feels it is short-sighted to sever ties with Israel.
I think any foreign policy from any country should be coming from the approach that says, in our case, in South Africa's case, we should say South Africa first. We should act what's in the best interest of South Africa. That should be our point of departure. And in doing that, you should have relations with all countries in the world. You should have relations with all countries in the world. You're not going to make any difference to the solving this problem or to putting any pressure on Israel by severing diplomatic ties. It doesn't work that way. South Africa's agreement, when we came to a compromise in 1994, how did we do that? By negotiating, by talking to each other. That's the way that you should do it. It's a knee-jerk reaction to sever ties. It makes no difference to the problem. It doesn't help the problem. It doesn't solve the problem.
Do you hold the same perspective when it came to Sudan, for instance, and Umar al-Bashir?
Yes, absolutely. You have to talk to people. That's the way you do it. You have to talk to people. You have to negotiate. That's how you ascertain. You put out your influence out there. That's the way we should do it. South Africa is first. What's in the best interest of our own country, and in doing so, we should play a role by being responsible and talk to everyone.
All right, but do you understand that for not only for very many South Africans, this is not just a principle matter about what is right and what is just, but also, the sense about whether the political entities that could be voted into power, what they could potentially do with that power, and whether there could be a scenario in which, much like our dark past in this country, where there was a political elite and a political leadership that did oppress black people, that had effected a system of apartheid in this country, not very much dissimilar. In fact, many have, again, these international agencies that say what's happening in Palestine is a lot worse than what we had in South Africa as a system of apartheid, that this is a very crucial nexus principle issue. And so when it comes to this issue around what we see in expressions of apartheid, be it in South Africa and in modern day occupied Palestine, is the Freedom Front Plus siding with that particular notion and saying that ought not to be called out and isolated, much like apartheid South Africa in fact was.
Have you been to Israel?
No, I have not, and I don't recognize Israel, to be honest.
Well, then you can make no contribution to solve this problem, with all due respect. I've been to Israel, I've been to the West Bank, I've been to Gaza. You should go and have a look yourself, and then you can deal with the facts. The fact of the matter is that there's a problem in that area in the world, and there are people that need to find a way to live in harmony, recognizing the right of the Palestinian people to self-determination and to self-government. But the people of Israel are not going to disappear into thin air. That's also a reality, and we need to find a way to accommodate those two realities and assist people to live in peace and harmony. That's what we want. I cannot support any principle or any idea that says we have to destroy this group or we have to destroy that group. That's not what we stand for.
And I don't quite think that is the framing of this discussion. I'm asking you on the principal issue of an apartheid entity that is occupying a people, which is not my perspective. It's what the United Nations, it is what the world is saying. What is the principal position of Freedom Front Plus on this?
No. I'm not going to fall into that little trap. What do you mean when you say Israel is an apartheid state? What do you mean? What does it mean?
Look at what's happening in parts of the West Bank. Look at what's happening in the occupied territories.
What's happening there?
The cutting of water in Gaza, the restriction of movement, the checkpoints.
No, it's not that.
There's a wall there's an apartheid wall with very many checkpoints to which Palestinians have their water, their electricity controlled.
Yeah, take a deep breath. No, you should really go and visit that place, with all due respect. There was a beautiful, good relationship between Israel and the people of Gaza. Every day, thousands of people from Gaza went into Israel and worked, and exports and goods were sent between the two territories. There was no problem. It changed when Hamas attacked Israel on the 7th of October. You refer to the International Court of Justice's their judgment. Why do you ignore the fact that that same judgment said the hostages should be freed? You ignore that. Why?
I'm not raising the issue around the judgment. We were talking about the issues around whether or not to support South Africa's position.
You did raise issues with regard to the judgment. You relied on the judgment a number of times, but you ignore the fact that that same judgment said the hostages should be released. This is a very complicated problem, and I think South Africa should assist. We've played a role in different places in the past in terms of bringing our expertise to those kind of things and to try to settle these things down. In the end, what will be the solution in Palestine? I believe that there should be a two-state solution where the people of Palestine are entitled to self-determination, there they can have their own government, but surely Israel is entitled to have the same, unless you tell me that we should wipe Israel off the face of the earth. Is that the point of view? I don't think so.
Can I understand from the Freedom Front Plus's perspective? So you're saying right now that there is no necessity to sanction Israel. There's no necessity to isolate Israel. You don't quite believe there is an apartheid policies that is in practice. You don't quite believe that, until, because you said before October the 7th, there were cordial relations and there was no blockade in Gaza. And so all of those are scenarios in which you will not condemn Israel.
No, you can't put words in my mouth. I'm telling you what the position was before the 7th of October last year. And
so there was no blockade before October the 7th?
No, there was no blockade. There was a daily interaction between those two territories. You can go and have a look yourself if you haven't been there. You can go and have a look at what's between Israel and the West Bank. Of course, there are problems, and there will always be problems if one group does not recognize the existence of the other. We should play a role to try to get the parties around the table to understand that the solution should be a two-state solution. But you know what a two-state solution should mean? It's no use to create a two-state solution. Either one state continues to attack the other, regardless of who it may be. Then they should live in peace and harmony next to one another and cooperate like all states in the world do.